Welcome, everybody. This week we're going over a DD that we did a little while ago on AVAV, AeroVironment.
Yeah, one thing to note is that this is going over Q3 2022. Yeah, they've got a weird fiscal calendar. But we dropped
And
this back.
it was published on March 13th back in
Yep.
2022, earlier this year. So got
Absolutely.
about a month and a half into it now.
So we'll go over the DD that we dropped, as well as some updated technical analysis and how we might be thinking about playing this going forward.
Yep.
So stick around to the end of the video. Let's hop right on into it. Oh, don't forget, you can join the Discord if you want to get access to this as soon as it drops. And click that notification button and subscribe so you can get all the notifications when we drop DDs so you won't be left behind. But let's talk about why we're talking about this stock. Now, Tim, you're the one who brought this up to the group's attention, correct? Tom?
Yeah. So it was actually a little bit of a fear play with everything going on surrounding Russia. And during kind of like the end of the Olympics, it was kind of rumored that Putin was sort of waiting for the closing ceremonies to happen, and then he was going to start his invasion. And of course, that's exactly sort of what ended up happening. And during times of war, people often flock to safety or like defense related stocks. Um, some popular ones being Lockheed Martin or Raytheon. But AeroVironment here did sort of jump out at us kind of as like an alternate third or like the sort of smaller cap, riskier play, as opposed to going that's something that is quite large like Lockheed Martin. And AeroVironment here is like pretty unique because they do specialize in small unmanned aircraft systems. And it's interesting because this war is kind of the first war where we have all of these new technologies at our disposal. And there's actually a lot of like unmanned missile strikes that are being used instead of, I don't know, like more classical warfare techniques. But yeah,
Yeah, it's super interesting.
it's an interesting one.
It's a great company. I really like it. Like you were talking about, it's got a smaller market cap, as we can see here. It's only got about 25 million shares outstanding, which is why it's got a little bit more
It
volatility
is
to
trading
it.
around like around $100 right now at the time of recording. So
So, yeah, so it's got some upside potential. It's got some downside potential. One
yeah,
of the things
yeah.
that really stuck out to me is that they actually have a majority share of all unmanned aircrafts in the U.S. Department of Defense inventory, and that's huge because, like, if you look at Ukraine, like, we're not sending troops over there; we're sending drones and missiles and ammunition, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is a very smart play, but it's not just like a military play. Like they also do some really cool things. Like they have the Ingenuity, which is the Mars helicopter, and that was the first powered controlled flight off planet. So I mean, very cool,
That is
very
pretty
very
cool.
cool stuff. And they get government
Yeah,
contracts
and
like left and right, and they're competing
it
for a
was
big
kind of
one
like
later this year.
it was kind of a piece of like global significance though whenever we did accomplish that unmanned flight on Mars. That was a pretty sort of like unique time to be human. It was a interesting feat that they accomplished.
Right? I absolutely love
Yeah.
it. I think they're pretty cool. Let's talk about some of the key points, Tom.
Um, yeah. So the thing that jumped out to me first right away was the large institutional ownership. This sort of goes to show that there's a lot of institutional players sort of in the game on this one. Very simply, like this is very common with defense related and like sort of safer sector plays. So the large institutional ownership doesn't really jump out at me as odd for this type of stock. But the fact that it is over 100% is just something to be kind of cautious about.
And
Obviously, there has to be some derivative use, but just know that like institutions are really,
loading
really
up,
betting.
they are
Yeah,
stockpiling
exactly.
these
Yeah.
shares. Cool. So all of our DDs come with usually monthly, weekly, and if applicable, daily technical analysis. We're gonna kind of skip over this because it's not as relevant because we did drop this back in March. You can see
It
from the
is kind of
events.
relevant though. If you do, you just want to scroll back one,
Yeah, yeah,
just
sure.
because we did sort of see the bottom take place there, and we were sort of projecting that it looked like we were going to go back up and test towards that 120 mark again. So just remember that for later whenever we look at the live
Oh,
updated chart.
excellent point. What a tease.
Yeah, it was good at the time when we released
Yes,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
it
it
was
was
great at the
Very
time.
useful.
excellent.
Yeah.
Cool. Taking a look at the market sentiment here, you can see it's contracts, right, and it's earnings. That's really what's going to
Yep.
move it.
That's
And
how
then of
these
course,
weapons manufacturers make it, right? They just get a government contract and fulfill. Government
yeah.
contract, fulfill.
Now it's important to note the larger the contract, the more the market will care. Like when we see when AVAV beat earnings, right? They traded 1.2 million, but when
Hmm.
they just got an 8.5 million contract, right? It was like 20% of that,
Yeah,
242,000.
yeah.
So it's
I
something to
see.
keep in mind as well. Briefly looking over the books, pretty good, right? I mean, they're spending a little bit less on research and development, but they're also spending less on general and administrative, which I like. It means they're probably not, the CEO, the board's probably not giving themselves massive payouts.
Yeah, it's very true. But it does look like they had a little bit of issue pulling in the same amount of revenue as the last quarter there. But given the circumstance of things and how it's kind of unfolding here now, I do think that number is definitely going to climb up. They've been
Yeah, I think so
doing a lot
too.
more sales. Yeah, they have a lot more contracts that they're shipping out. So,
Yeah, so their net income was a loss for that quarter, but their earnings per share was up from 10 cents to 32. So definitely
oh,
moving in the
nice.
right direction. It's very nice. You look at insider trading, all right, zero buys in the last year. They sold
But this is common, though. I wouldn't really say
super
that this is a
common.
negative thing. Oftentimes, people are sort of paid in stock options or shares as well as their own salary. So the selling that we see is very likely people just sort of inflating their salary towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and as we see from the chart here, that it's getting smaller and smaller as the insiders realize that their share price is probably about to go up with Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah,
But the institutional ownership, the inside or
is slowly
institutions,
growing.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've known this for a while, right? You can see that they've been consistently in
Hmm.
this company for a while now.
Yeah, and of course we got BlackRock there as the number one
Oh,
institution. Of
BlackRock and
course,
Vanguard, shout out! You'll see them on
a
almost
lot.
all of the DDs. They
Yes.
own quite a bit of the market.
Hmm.
Looking at the
Yeah, and I
short,
like their product for this because it's kind of like what we're doing in Russia with a proxy war. So it's a lot easier to just send drones, which is just equipment, rather than boots on the ground.
yeah,
True. True.
they make the
You do still
switchblade.
need some boots on the ground to operate it, but there are people there already. So
Yeah.
We can train them.
yeah.
We do have already sent over a ton of Switchblade 300s, and if you follow Jim Cramer, you might have heard him complain about not sending over the Switchblade 600. So hopefully, when Biden goes back to Congress this week and asks for more money for aid to Ukraine, that they'll order some big guns, some big toys for the Ukrainians to defend themselves with.
Yeah. Those backpack drones are fun looking.
Aren't they? They're crazy. And
Yeah.
then here's the daily chart here. So you can see we highlighted some resistance here and even broke it down to the 4 hour chart. But let's talk
Nice.
about what's happened. Let's talk about the fun part, right? So we dropped
That's
this
a beautiful
DD
chart.
on the 14th, and you had that day, you had Tuesday to buy in, and then it just gaps up on Wednesday, gaps up on Thursday. Just a huge run from
Hmm.
under $75 to over 110. But it looks like we're coming
Yeah.
back down now. And I can't help but notice we got a couple gaps over here. So
Yeah.
if
Right.
one
And
subscribes to gap fill logic or theory, um, a put might be a very attractive position to take this week, as it might try to fill this gap back down to 75.
yeah. And it's really interesting because I know quite a few of us in the group were sort of playing AVAV right as we did release it there. Um, the couple days right after the release, we did see those gaps up, and it's pretty interesting whenever you do see gaps up like that, especially one that matches kind of the top of the range that was there previously in the earlier week. And then it just continued on the next day and gapped up again over top of that level. And now we're actually in the past week there, we are seeing accelerating downward movement because the volume is actually also picking up with each additional day. So
Okay.
it's moving down faster and faster on more volume. And we can see that reflected really easily in the RSI too. Now that it's sort of trending down towards the 30 mark there, we can say the bottom of that pink band is going to be that 25. Um, we can see that we're entering into oversold territory and lining up pretty nicely with where that gap down is. So if we see a gap down coming out of the weekend here, it will be in oversold territory, which may be a good support line for a little bit of a move upwards
So
after
another
that.
opportunity to go long again. I like that. I like that
Good.
idea as well.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Thanks for going over our due diligence on AeroVironment with us at Roots Research. Make sure to like the
Yeah.
video if you enjoyed the DD. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll get notified when we drop our next DD. And if you want access to it as soon as it drops, check out the link to our Discord in the description below. We come out with free monthly DD every month at the top of the month, and then we also come out for our premium Discord DD every week. And our Discord's on sale right now for $4.99 a month. Right, so $5, pretty chill.
Right on. Yeah. Not too bad.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Good luck trading.